This is the Royal Enfield Himalayan, and I've been riding it around for the last couple of days. So in this video we're going to tell you everything you need to know about it. The Himalayan is built for all roads, built for no roads, and that's a really good description because it's a dual purpose motorbike. It's what you would call an adventure bike. It's got a sort of Paris-Dakar style fairing here, which when you're going along at speed does take a little bit of the wind off your face. If you sort of lie down on the tank you can get out of the wind a little bit, but it's more cosmetic really.
In this particular colour, which they call snow, the bike costs £4,399, but you can get it in silver and black, but that's an extra £100. But we have seen one on eBay for £3,999, so obviously you can get them cheaper, and that's brand new, so it does vary.
The engine is a 411cc 4-stroke single overhead cam. It produces about 24.5 horsepower and 32 newton meters of torque, which is quite torquey actually for a bike like this. But the power is very easy. It comes on very gently. It doesn't kick you, so you can sort of go off. If you're not an experienced rider, you'd be fine on this bike. Also, the throttle. It's got a very long travel, so to get full throttle you're like this, but that's also a good thing. If you're off-road and you hit some bumps, if a little bit of throttle is not going to put you into a wheelie or make the back wheel spin.
There's a couple of extras that you can get for this bike, including panniers, which are an extra about £530, which will be very useful for touring and so have you. And you can also get a top box for the back here. I think that's 330 or thereabouts, and then you can get lots of different accessories for the rack on the front as well.
The front wheels are 21-inch, and you've got the disc brake with ABS, and at the back you've got a 17-inch rear wheel. But I must say, these tyres that this has got, what are they? They're the Avon AV54s. They're not really very good off-road. They're more of a road tyre.
I'd probably recommend getting trials or enduro tyres for these.
Up front you've got the 41mm forks with about 8 inches of travel, which is adequate for the trail riding. And at the back you've got 7 inches of travel, and you've got the single spring mono shock suspension. And when you're riding you don't really notice the suspension, so you don't notice it. That's a good thing. You don't know it's not too hard, it's not too soft. It just goes along and you forget about it, and it does everything for you.
It's got a proper petrol tank on it, made out of metal, 15 litres. It's quite a nice shape to it as well. The fenders are quite a nice shape, but they are plastic, as you can hear from that. I think the front one up here is probably more for looks than anything, because then you've got this one underneath, but if it is wet you will get your legs soaked.
The seat comes down into a sort of curve here, and you've got the passenger seat at the back. But the problem with this, and it's the same on all these styles of adventure bikes, is that it sets you in one position. So when you're off-road, sometimes you want to be back when you're going downhill over some bumps or accelerating, and when you're cornering you want to be right over the tank. So with this bike you're set in one position. So that really means that it's a gentle trail bike. You've got to be the sort of person that just wants to go out for a nice ride and not worry about performance riding, but it's not aimed at that sort of rider anyway.
The pegs have got kind of a two-in-one design. They've got this rubber thing that if you unscrew it you can actually take that off and have more of a kind of a grippy peg for off-road riding, so that's quite useful. You've actually got two stands on this bike. You've got the normal sort of side stand and then you've got a centre stand here, so you've got that option.
The seat height is 31.5 inches on this, which is quite a nice height, especially if you're not that tall. And you've got 8 3/4 inches of ground clearance, so it's pretty good for off-road trail riding with lots of obstacle clearance height.
The brakes are pretty powerful on this, you can stop quite quickly. And I believe you can get this bike on an A2 licence. I don't think you have to restrict it because it's 24 horsepower and I think it's under the ridiculous power to weight ratio that they suggest, so I think it is fine.
So it's 411cc, it's a long stroke engine, it's got electronic ignition so there's no carburettor, and it's air cooled so there's no radiators, but you have got an oil cooler at the front just over here.
We've got a 5-speed gearbox on this bike and the gears are actually very, very smooth. There's no clunkiness like you get from a Harley.
Okay, I really like the retro styling on this. It's sort of like a trail bike from the 1980s, whereas a lot of the alternative makes you could buy have got very pointy plastics and they're sort of more space age looking, and I'm not so keen on that style. So I think the styling wise this is good, and the build quality is really good. It's very solid. It's a well-made bike. The power of this is very manageable. So as I said, if you wanted to go out just for a gentle ride and just enjoy yourself, it's a bike for people that just want to ride normally. It's not a mental bike that you're going to go crazy on. If you wanted to go crazy, you'd get a proper racing enduro bike. It's nothing to do with that. This is a nice everyday trail bike you can ride to work in the week and go off for a country ride at the weekend. The design was basically to sort of ride the Himalayan mountain passes and the tracks, and for that it works perfectly. And over here in England, the country lanes, the byways, the green lanes, it's the perfect bike, as long as you don't expect to go too fast. This bike will get up to speed quite nicely, and once it's moving at the legal limit, it feels quite stable. You can duck down a little bit under here to take the wind off your face if you want to, but it's a perfectly nice, easy bike to ride at 70 miles an hour. But I wouldn't say I'd want to ride from the south of England to Scotland on it. It's not designed for long journeys like that, but if you wanted to combine some road work, go to a nice trail, perfect. Size-wise, I'm 6'3". It feels okay to ride. Like I said about the seat, it does push you forward a little bit so you are in a fixed position. How do you think I look?
It doesn't look too big. It looks about right, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah, it doesn't look small.
It doesn't, no. It's much bigger than I thought it would be when it came. I thought, oh, it's actually quite a big bike.
I mean, I'm 6'1" and it doesn't feel too small at all. It feels about right. It's quite a low seat position, actually.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? What did you think it was like to ride?
It's quite easy to ride. It's not snappy at all, so it's not going to throw you off.
So who would buy a bike like this? I think if you want a trail bike and you want to do Sunday afternoon going down into some green lanes in the countryside, exploring, it's a perfect bike. It would also be a really good bike for commuting, especially if you had the panniers at the back. You could be going to work, getting changed, bring your stuff with you, or even be a courier. I mean, it's a fantastic bike for that. So our verdict of the Royal Enfield Himalayan, we really like it. It's a lovely bike. If you want a decent trail bike that will go on the road, go on the trail, it's the perfect bike to get. Please don't forget to subscribe. We really appreciate your support. We're trying to boost up the subscribers. We want to get a massive 100,000 by the end of 2020. I know that's a very ambitious ask, but please help us, please share, please help us get to the target number.